For me, this has opened doors that I would not have actually maybe made the time for or had the time to push against, and inspired me to try to find some things that make me very, very happy, to try to maintain my balance and sanity in a very challenging time. And that means songwriting to me. That means painting to me.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Yellow Van Stories, your interview podcast taking you across the globe in a yellow French camper van by the name of Fonzie. I'm your host and driver, Bastian. Every week, I invite creatives from all over the world into the van to explore with them the opportunities hidden within a crisis. We have been waiting just for you and kept you a seat by the window side. Also because, technically, there are no others. Feel free to order any imaginary beverage that strikes your fancy. Fonzie's in first gear already, and we are good to go. So buckle up and get comfortable, because today we're going to Berlin, or the USA, or both, or, well, you'll see. Here with us in the Yellow Van today is Erik Penny, a US songwriter, musician, and painter who has been living in Berlin for more than 13 years. Hello, Erik.
Hello, hello, Bastian. I don't know why I just called you Sebastian.
Because everybody does that. Don't worry. That's just.
I'm not the only one.
No, that happens all the time. So this is a great opportunity for me to once say, it's Bastian, not Sebastian. Bastian. So now the world will know, you see?
Excellent.
So, but I don't care at all either.
Okay, good.
So
good.
Doesn't matter in the slightest.
I was going for offensive and I only managed unoriginal. Damn it.
Well, you can do better. That's true.
I'll keep trying.
We'll keep rolling with this, and then I'm sure there will be other opportunities. Okay. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's a great pleasure to have you, in the Yellow Van, Erik. Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me. And the van is lovely. It looks like a studio.
So spacious.
Yeah.
It looks so spacious. Amazing, actually. Yeah, it took me a lot of time, a lot of visits to the hardware store. Actually.
I'm sure to expand it.
Yes, very nice.
I pictured it differently in my head, but I'm not disappointed. It's very nice. Thank you.
I'm very happy to hear that. You imagined it more yellow on the inside as well. It's really just the outside color. You did.
I did.
No. I just don't want to go with an overstatement on the inside. I think yellow on the outside is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Easy to find.
Oh, wood. Easy to find, exactly. You can, you will always remember your parking spot if you are just somewhere close to it, like a radius of 500 meters. It's hard to miss. No, it's a very practical choice.
Well done.
In the end, yeah.
It's like my wife was wearing her very yellow, like bright mustard yellow mutsa today when we were at Victoria Park and enjoying the snow with our two kids and sledding, and our son who's 5. It's not that big, but when lots of people are there, far too many people in Corona times, we were masked up well, but still kind of a little mortified to find ourselves among so many people. But every time he found himself disoriented and not really sure after going to the bottom of the hill, he just had to seek out this, really the only yellow cap that anyone was wearing was on my wife. And so he was always able to find us.
That's super practical. You see, then now you go. It's perfect. Now you know why my van is yellow. Well, also I got it in yellow, so it was just. Let's face it, it wasn't really just a conscious choice, but let's just leave it at that. It's very practical.
Sounds good. Yellow sounds good too. It's a yellow van.
Yeah, and it's like the sun. The sun is yellow, so it's friendly, and it has a lot of advantages, but not on the inside. Anyway. One of the most important questions to head off into any of the podcasts is what drink did you pour yourself?
I didn't pour anything yet. Someone poured it for me into a bottle. And I'll probably pour something for myself in a few minutes. I might be doubling up. I'm starting with Störtebeker Atlantic Ale from Rügen. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's like a craft beer, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah, I guess you would call it a craft beer. Yeah, it's sort of specialty beers. Störtebeker they have way too many varieties, like way too many varieties. Störtebeker, if you're listening, cut it down to like 3. And I've tried so many of their different varieties, and this is the only one that I really, really like. Not only like, I love it. It's actually my favorite beer for like 2 years running now. But they also make a couple other beers. They have like their Keller beer, you would think would be totally solid. Their Piz, you think it would be totally solid and good and like couldn't possibly miss. And they both just suck. Like they're really awful. Like totally standard Pilsner from Störtebeker is total shit. Like I would rather drink Berliner Piz. You know what I mean? I'd probably rather drink like I don't know, like
water.
No,
water.
no.
Plain old water.
No, I'd rather drink beer than water almost any moment of any day. I'm a big fan of water, but it's so strange. And then they also have like weird, like whiskey ale, which is like aged in aged, but like stored in wooden whiskey barrels, so it takes on the flavor of whiskey. And I like to have whiskey and beer at the same, like like a glass of whiskey, and I like drinking both whiskey and beer that way. It's a nice combination, which I will.
So you drink in stereo, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
So you're really a musician at heart. Like there's no mono, just stereo all the way.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Is mono versus stereo? That's a very interesting. Okay, that's another interesting argument. Not argument, but discussion. Hopefully, it won't be an argument. My point being, for me,
doing a lot of interviews, I'm very much for mono. You know, I have to admit that. But you know, that's a whole different like use case for me than it is for you as a musician, of course.
No, absolutely. No. There's a lot to be said for mono recordings, I think, and
totally.
Especially modern mono recordings. If someone were to do that, it would obviously be a very purposeful and ballsy creative choice to make, but you could totally do that, and then you would never have like that weird thing where you're listening on the iPhone and it sounds like something's missing there, you know, something, because it always sounds, no matter how like whatever iPhone does, whatever Apple does, where it's like coming out of one little speaker, and it's they take the stereo image and put it into one thing, but it's not a true mono recording, so something sounds wrong about it. Like when I listen to my mixes from my iPhone, it's fun to do that sometimes because you get like this compressed, real condensed essence of what the mix sounds like and how people might listen to it or how it might sound on 1,000 different sources. But it always sounds slightly wrong because there's elements that are panned hard left or hard right that are in that weird little pseudo mono mix they do, but it's not quite right. Anyway, it's interesting.
No, I haven't picked up on that yet. But then, as I said, I generally just have, you know, the one use case where I have to make voices sound good.
Sure.
Which is obviously an entirely different ballgame to having various instruments and having to, you know, put them on top of each other and layer it out nicely. I would totally suck at that. You know, I mean, you could say that I totally suck at this as well, but at least my hope inside is that it's not quite that bad.
Okay. But, I can't say whether you do or not. So, although what I have heard, just by perusing your library a little bit, I thought, oh, that's really nice. I definitely want to do this because this is interesting and cool and sounds good and it's good production value and website looks good.
I mean, Erik, like I would ask you, what do you want to drink? But now I know what you're drinking. So, but next one's on me, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
Just said. Thank you very much.
I will remember that. Thank you.
You are always welcome to come back here after this. I mean, anytime you want to, you just drop me a line anytime.
Fantastic.
It's a promise.
I think of something interesting to say, I'll let you know.
Anytime. Call me at 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. Call me at 4 a.m. We just set it up very briefly, very quickly.
Bastian, no problem. Sebastian, shit. I got something. Damn it.
See, I don't care. I don't care.
An idea.
See, it's just kind of like dropping off me here. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm sure.
So even if you call me, I am actually. So basically, just quickly. So what I've taught myself, yes.
Margaritas.
Hold on, because this is funny. Because it's very good, exactly. So because I looked for Texan drinks online, right?
Oh man.
First thing I saw. This is why it's funny. Like was craft beer is really popular in Texas. So now, so now you're sitting here with a craft beer. Perfect. So we are definitely filling the first two spots because
Amazing.
number 2 was a Texan margarita.
Amazing.
And I got it off Martha Stewart's website.
Oh my God.
And all I can say it is super strong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if I have this by the end of the show, I'll be singing with you, and we will probably be, be in each other's arms virtually.
Yeah, virtually in each other's arms. Well, I will say it looks proper. It looks like you did it right. You have a slice you have a slice of lemon instead of lime, which is not. That's a giant mistake, but it's okay.
I know. I know. I thought I could get away with that, but now that you have also described it so that people who are not watching the video also know that it's wrong, I don't think I can get out of it. Thanks very much.
No,
for that.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome. I cannot, as a Texan and as actually someone who, as a former bartender for many years, I cannot let the lemon in place of lime slide. This will not stand. But that's okay.
If I had known that, I would have done my due diligence, of course, and I would have still gone to the supermarket quickly, But it is what it is now. It's like I said, it is very strong. Very strong indeed. Yeah. So good luck with that. Right?
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for you. I kind of wish I had a margarita now.
So next time, next margarita's on me,
dude. Next margarita, when we see each other in person, I will make for you because I actually make like really, really kick-ass margaritas.
All right, really, I'll hold you to that.
That is my. Yeah,
I'll hold you to that.
You should. I can't wait. I can't wait to make.
Right.
Yeah, it's my favorite drink to make, and it's the one I've made by far the most of.
Now I really have a reason for me to want this pandemic to end. Yeah, to be honest with you. Finally, it's like finally I'm like, okay, now it could just end actually. Because before then I was just like, okay, fine, But now that I know that you're making a margarita once this is all over, I'm like, okay, count me in.
Yep.
I'm against the pandemic now. Yep. I'm against the pandemic.
Up until then, it was just whatever.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I just stay at home and I finish Netflix. That's fine.
Exactly. Finished all of Netflix.
Finished all of Netflix.
The entire catalog. Oh man.
No, I've done it. You joke. I mean, it's
fantastic.
Over. Yeah, totally.
Hey, you can always come and babysit. That'd be fine too.
Yeah, we can work something out. Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I have a niece and a nephew. I would say I have a big child affinity in that sense. Nice. They would vouch for me. So you just also know what you're getting yourself into. Fantastic. I hope so. Ella is 3. I'm not sure she would vouch for me. On some days she would. On others she would probably say, "Stay away from this man." I'm not entirely sure. But Adam is very reliable. He's my nephew. He's 8. I think he's on my side.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
8-year-old nephew should really, really. If you can't win over your 8-year-old nephew, then you've done something horribly wrong. Like there's something you've dropped the ball so badly if your 8-year-old nephew doesn't like you. So, hey, good to know that you...
No, he totally loves me. He absolutely loves me without any shadow of a doubt, just to be clear.
Excellent.
I hope.
And not just for the margaritas.
Not just for the margaritas I make him. No, also for the craft beer I pour on a regular basis.
Oh, drunk kids are the best.
They're so easy to take care of,
They are so easy when they're sleeping,
Yeah, I mean, you will have experience now, right? In the lockdown, taking care of your kids.
Yeah.
What's the number one pacifier you turn to?
Alcohol, for sure. Directly to drunk children. They laugh uncontrollably for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then they just pass out. It's
all right.
So easy. It's so easy.
So easy.
No, definitely the number one pacifier. The go-to thing is my kids have watched more videos and more like series and more movies than any 10 and 5-year-old should ever watch in a 10-month period.
I think that's a fate that they share with a lot of other kids.
Yeah. I don't feel bad at all. I don't give a shit. It's so much to ask of kids to like be kind of, especially in a way, I think, to be then like all day with one parent for weeks and months at a time. And then it's always Mike is home sometimes earlier in the day, sometimes later, but evenings are always all of us, mornings are all of us. But, she's got to work and I was just so happy that she's got a job that's unaffected by this. And yeah, my kids just spend like so much time with me and I so much time with them, and we get really, really sick of each other. And it would be totally unreasonable to think that any of us could actually continue existing without some complete shut-off time. Like when that happens, usually it's then, okay, you guys spend hours of having gotten some homeschooling done, having like played as many board games as we can figure out. Maybe it's been 2 hours, maybe it's been 3 or 4 hours. If the weather sucks, we're stuck inside or whatever. And
which happens a lot of times this time of the year, right? In Berlin.
Yeah. But we've never been so committed to being outside during shitty weather as we are this winter. Because previous winters, they go to school in Kita and they're outside at some point during the day anyway. Especially at the Kita, they're just outside playing. Doesn't matter if there's a freaking ice, sleet, tornado, dragon storm coming. They still go outside. And then they come
Dragon
home.
Storm in Berlin is something that you witness a lot. People don't know, but a lot of dragon storms there. Exciting, but also dangerous.
Visit Berlin, the famous Russian dragon storms, the Siberian dragon storms. They're serious shit.
Yes,
it's actually what ended World War II. Few people.
Yeah, people don't know, right?
People think it was the Red Army. It was actually the Red Dragon Storm. Education.
Aragon.
It was Aragon.
Yeah. No, this is an educational podcast. I'm glad that you figured that out without me explicitly saying so. It's definitely a very educational podcast.
You're welcome.
That's the idea.
You're welcome.
So I'm glad that we could do something for the world history community and clear a few things up here. That's great. Thank you, Erik. Thank you very much.
Hey, we have a new hashtag to put on your. I've been wanting to use hashtag educational forever.
That's going to be the new one. Absolutely. It's going to follow in a long list. Just to establish quickly that you're not really in the yellow. I mean, you are in the yellow van, but the image we're seeing is coming from where? Where are you right now?
This is a music studio called Keller 4 Tone Studio. A friend of mine called Ken Burke is an Irish singer-songwriter cat who's lived in Berlin for, must be coming up on 20 years, I don't know, 16, 17 years. And married to a wonderful German girl, Maika Rosa Vogel, also a singer-songwriter. And he built out the studio over the last few years, and it's here on Monumentenstrasse in my neck of Kreuzberg, almost Schöneberg. Barely Kreuzberg, so right across the Monumentenbrücke is, I think, is the Schöneberg. So it's like 100 meters from here. Hey,
yeah, Kreuzberg just still sounds better, right?
Of course it does. I mean, Schöneberg.
Yeah. Goodbye. No, it's Kreuzberg. Totally. Please stay.
Kreuzberg.
Please stay. It's totally
Exactly.
Kreuzberg. I mean, by a long shot.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, cheers.
96 bitches.
You haven't even.
Hey, man.
Cheers. To Texan drinking
yes.
and all of that.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Exactly.
Nice to have you. Nice to have you on the van.
Texan drinking. Hold on 1 second. Who's that?
Of course.
Hi, Nico. Hey, man. Hi. How are you? Nice to meet you. I'm doing a live podcast right now, actually. I didn't know. Do you need to get in, or are we planning to?
I wanted to practice a little bit. But if you're here,
Ken didn't tell you that I was going to be here? Shit.
You told me about some Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah. This was like, you can still practice. It won't bother me at all, actually.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, totally. Go ahead and practice. Just shut. Hi, nice to meet you, by the way. So one of my studio mates, whom I've never met in 3 years here, just came in, and we're fortunate enough in the studio to have multiple rooms. It's good. It's perfect. We were just talking about the studio. So yeah. So Ken built it out. I'm sitting in the control room here, right? You're set up on the mixing board, and right behind you, essentially, like directly across from me, is the room with a lovely grand piano and
the room where it all happens, basically.
Not where it all happens. That's where the piano, guitars and things, acoustic instruments. All right. Another room with drums over that way, and a vocal booth right here. So
nice.
That is where I'm coming to you. Live from
the studio.
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been able to say that. So that's also a first today. And it looks very cozy.
It's very cozy. It's super nice. It was really done. He really did it right. He's got a great sense of, there's not burps with this craft beer.
It's craft beer. I was about to say that's to be expected.
So I'm going to be increasingly burping. So it's no, 1 second, Bastian. No, it's really okay. I've actually sometimes done mixing in here with Julie, sometimes even over there playing piano. So it's, as long as both doors are closed.
It's really okay. Then I will do it.
Totally fine.
If you need,
I mean, it's
then I stop.
You're not gonna play like you're not gonna do piano interpretations of Metallica Metallica or anything.
Yeah, not Metallica, but Beethoven.
Beethoven, good.
That was what I was going to say.
You're welcome. Enjoy, man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Beethoven is pretty intense, actually. It's the original.
Yeah, the fifth. Oh, the fifth is intense.
The original heavy metal.
Yeah. I think that's when it started. Yeah, exactly. Now that I've never looked at it that way, but yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. Good start to metal. I think so. Actually, yeah.
He's kind of sort of the original metal.
And he was a bit dark as well. You know, he didn't hear very well anymore towards the end of his life. Like I think most metal musicians, because they've been playing next to loud amps all their life. So absolutely, I think there's a lot of parallels there, without any doubt.
I think that's true.
See, another part for the educational part of this podcast.
The wigs.
Excellent.
I'm not sure if that really qualifies, but
not more than the dragons earlier. No, you're right.
Oh,
I think that's true. That's really totally debatable.
All right, touche. Oh, man alive.
What I was actually, the one question I still wanted to know, if you had to pick something in that studio, what's your favorite item there? Besides the craft beer doesn't count.
No, that doesn't count. That's my favorite item anywhere. My favorite item in the studio. I really love good microphones. And I only have like 2 decent microphones of my own, but they're not even here because Ken has several really great mics. So I'm really a sucker for like really nice mics because, you know, you put up a good microphone in front of yourself for singing, get the proximity correct, get the pop guard, the pop filter kind of in place. As long as you get those things right with a really good mic, you kind of can't do anything wrong except sing poorly, which happens sometimes, but
on my side that happens a lot.
Okay, good.
Yeah, totally.
Do you sing as well?
Yeah, I sing, and then I would just postpone the well until way later. Okay. You know, I sing. Let's put it that way.
It's so easy. It's so easy to be self-deprecating when it comes to things like singing, because there's so many amazing examples to compare yourself to, and it's really hard to put yourself out there in a way that, you know, that I can hear that. Can you hear the piano?
Slightly, but it's nice. It's like background music. It's like elevator music.
This is great. This is great. So it matched perfectly to the whiskey I'm about to pour myself. So.
Oh, great! That brings us to mono and stereo again, because now I'm thinking if there's background music, maybe I should just put the episode out in stereo then. My God, so many questions I have to answer.
That's tough. But I'm recording from a mono source, so stereo.
So do I. That's true.
Yeah. So it's mono. It's mono. This is great. What stuff he's playing feels kind of like a little loungy and stuff. Really nice.
Yeah, I don't hear it quite as much, which is a pity and good at the same time. I'm not sure right now, but it's I hear it a little bit. Yeah. It makes me groove just ever so slightly.
I'm enjoying it. Exactly. I'm enjoying it.
All right. Well, as long as you're enjoying it, that's the most important thing. You should be comfortable, right? And if the lounge music helps, then
the customer is always right, or the guest is always something.
The guest is always well taken care of.
Bam.
Maybe.
Bam. Gastfreundlichkeit is always like one of the most important.
Hospitality.
Yeah,
nothing the Germans are particularly known for, though.
No, it's strange. And you know, that was a funny phenomenon that just happened right now. I could not think of hospitality, the word in English. I could only think of Gastfreundlichkeit. It happens the longer you hear.
I have that a lot of times as well when with my German, actually. Sometimes I can only think of the word in English. Sometimes I can also only think of the word in German. So basically, my whole communication skills are entirely fucked up.
That's awesome. Great. So I didn't understand a word you just said. I'm sorry.
See what I'm talking about? See what I mean? Well, no. It's complicated.
Could you repeat that in one language, please? Pick a fucking language.
I can't promise that. I can't promise that. Some Greek might slip out as well, and then that's even terrible. Yeah.
Is that from your time on Lesbos, or is it, or did you speak Greek before that? Or
no, I lived in Athens for 5 years.
I did not know that.
After Lesbos. Yes, and my girlfriend is Greek as well.
Okay.
So don't take this the wrong way. I have no reason to brag with my Greek either. You know, I just get around, right? But it'll be a lifelong journey learning Greek for me, without any doubt.
Oh, any well, that same can be said for me with German. I mean, I've gotten to a very proficient level, but I like literally every day I learn a new word, and and that just happens so quickly. A new word, or a new phrase, or a new use of grammatical use of something that I didn't realize it worked this way or that way. From somebody, usually, hopefully, people are usually quite apt to help me, to correct me. Anyway, it is a thing
to correct me. Yes, that's so much fun.
And I'm apt to punch them. It's a lifelong thing. Learning a language, I can only imagine Greek is probably very complicated and very deep. And learning a second or third language is really like, is it not that you wave it off? Greek.
Greek. That's easy. I mean,
sounds fascinating. Do you speak Spanish as well by any chance?
Yeah, totally. No, I have at some point learned Spanish a little bit because I went to Argentina, to Buenos Aires.
Nice.
Which was a very beautiful trip, by the way. Amazing city. And I learned, I learned Spanish, every time I went to the toilet for more than 5 minutes. See, this is some very intimate information, I know, but then you have this app and you just do a bit of Spanish. So I did that for 4 weeks or something. And then I went to Buenos Aires and I actually spoke Spanish a lot better than I would have expected. I had actual conversations with taxi drivers and stuff.
Great.
It was a lot of fun. I have just forgotten all of it now.
Yeah.
So,
Tengo que hacer mierda.
Oh, yeah. Important.
¿Dónde está el baño? Tengo que hacer mierda. Because if you just have, I do speak Spanish, although it's been beaten down by my learning German for the last 10 years. But no, I grew up in Texas and right on the border there, so the opportunities are there at the very least to hear Spanish all the time, which then of course just gets into your head and gets into your head. So if you make the conscious decision at some point to actually then learn it, you have a very serious advantage over people who, someone who's never heard never been surrounded by the language. I was really quite surrounded by it. Started like in 4th grade is Spanish is the second language they start teaching in Texas schools.
All right.
So that was, I thought it sucked. I thought it was stupid at the time because I didn't know what I was, 4th graders don't know shit. And
in 4th grade, you think any subject is stupid.
Yeah, I thought anything.
Don't you? So,
and it was kind of funny because the Spanish they were teaching us was really, really basic. And it was stuff that I kind of already knew just from like teaching colors and numbers and a few phrases here and there from talking with friends and stuff. And I thought, oh, this is so dumb. They're just teaching us stuff that we already know without thinking for a moment, like, God, how lucky are you to already know this just from having like Spanish speaking friends and, Latino friends and being surrounded, Spanish on the radio all the time. And, church wedding is a mariachi band playing and conducted by a Spanish speaking padre. And it's really quite a blessing, quite a gift I was given. And it took me until I was in university to realize like, oh, wow. I have to, I can take some Spanish classes here at a university, and I did that, and it was just like really so easy for me. And then that's when I realized, wow, I've just been given this gift, and I should just really, really capitalize on it. And so I made every effort for many years to. Yeah,
well, it sounded very convincing to me. Yeah, amazingly, yeah. But
I talk about shit all day long, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Mierda. I mean,
exactly.
What else do you want to know in any language, right? Exactly. I mean, you're set. Ready, set, go.
It might be the most important word, actually.
Yes. And then we just always tell our kids, you shouldn't say that. Yep, you shouldn't say that. And whenever they say it, then they have it from kindergarten. Yep. We all know that's not true.
No, totally.
We all know that's
not true. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Raising bilingual kids, German, English is so tricky because I'm not the type of person in English that really, or in any language, I suppose, but my own language, I don't really censor myself. And I never thought, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying shit and fuck, fuck is an interesting one because in Germany, Stefan Raab kind of blew my mind, when 15 years ago when I started visiting Germany, or longer than that, and was watching TV Total. And he's just blah, blah, blah going on with his monologue.
Which is a German late night show, right?
Yeah, so yes, exactly.
Which doesn't exist anymore, but which was very big at the time.
Yeah, exactly. It was huge. Thank you for the explanation. And
anytime.
And I didn't speak German at the time, and he was going on and on in German. And the only thing I would understand is when he would just say, fuck. And I was like, what are we watching here? with his German talk show host is doing his monologue. I don't understand almost any of it at all. But the thing I do understand is he keeps dropping the F-bomb into his monologue. And I asked my wife, I said, what is this? And she's, oh, yeah. People say fuck here all the time. It's just not part of the language. So it's kind of like saying scheisse to us. It's kind of, and in the States, my God, you would get your mouth washed out with
soap.
Lysol if you, as a kid. Oh my God. You'd get the Trump Corona treatment with the fucking disinfectant in your mouth.
Totally. Yes. Bleach. So, great. Totally.
So that blew my mind. And so now raising my kids, I'm really terribly potty mouthed around my kids. And when we finally go visit the States with them, I'm sure they're just, my daughter is going to go to my mom. She'll go, Grandma, what the fuck?
You're like kindergarten.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I know.
Sorry. That's like really bad influence for the kids there.
Kreuzberg.
Really. Exactly.
What the fuck, Alter Kreuzberg? Yeah. No, my mom's pretty loose about stuff like that too. But
yeah, I thought so. I thought so. You seem to have grown up in a house that's where you spoke your mind in a very good way, and where you just didn't beat around the bush. I would say
interesting analysis.
It's not really an analysis. It's just a first impression. Let me call it a first impression.
Right. Well, close enough. There wasn't. Yeah, there was not a lot of propriety in our house as I was growing up. It wasn't us any sort of, let's put it this way, you would never think that anyone in our home, my parents or my brother or I, had ever spent a day in any sort of charm school situation learning anything about social behavior, because we were kind of like, we also weren't pigs, and we weren't like disgusting, we're not from Texas, so we weren't like these like backwoods, like small town Texas hicks.
Careful now.
Hey, I'm from there. I can say whatever the fuck I want about
You totally can. Cheers to that.
I know, exactly. So no, I mean, we didn't grow up in some trailer park or something, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of I guess we utilized crass humor quite often, and yeah. It's hard to describe, but we weren't a super refined family then, and we still aren't.
Okay, I also wonder what super refined is, and super refined to me sounds super boring as well. To be quite honest with you.
Totally.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So whatever I said there earlier, I meant that absolutely just as a praise, because I love the fact that we've already we're 25 minutes into the interview and I haven't even read your introduction yet.
There's an introduction? Oh my God.
kind of, so that you get a little, introduced, and I would do that now, right? Okay. To just but
oh, wait, I'll want to hear that. So let me go. Can I step away for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Hold on.
Yeah, of course.
Hello and welcome back.
So you're ready to okay. What did you get? That looks like a bottle of olive oil.
It does look like olive oil. It's Irish olive oil.
Oh, very nice.
Yes,
just spoil up those vocal cords a little bit.
Yes, exactly. See,
exactly. Well done.
Excellent
well done.
For the voice.
Works all the time.
No, this is
nice.
Bushmills 10.
Is this your preferred whiskey?
No, I just discovered it through my friend Ken. I've had Bushmills over the years many times. I know it and always liked it, but normally like Lefroy and Lefroy is
Lagavulin.
Yeah, Lagavulin I like also.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah,
the oaky, smoky taste is just really good.
But my friend Ken here, the studio chief here, he had a bottle of this, and it was almost out, so I just went and replaced it and set it up in the cabinet. I don't think he's noticed it yet, and I don't think he's had any yet, but I've had some, so I'm giving him I hope he notices it soon, because if he doesn't, it'll be gone. So
And you have no one to blame but yourself. Then,
I only ever have just myself to blame.
Well, in that spirit, cheers
Bastian.
again. I feel cheers. It's so nice having you. It feels a little weird to cheer with you with a whiskey, and I have this where I put my pinky up in the air.
Look, you know where my pinky is? Completely
totally.
unintended.
We're pulling it off together.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. So now, I will read a little something about you.
Great.
And as always, you can just totally disagree with that afterwards and tell you, how dare you say these things about me? Or you can just say, yeah, that was fairly okay. Or you can just be very matter of fact and tell me, no, I would like to rectify, straighten out the record. Okay. So you're ready?
Good to know. I am. Yeah, dude.
All right, cool.
Ready for this.
So for everyone who's still with us after 30 minutes and thought I had totally forgotten about the introduction, no.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit.
Probably not. But I'll just pretend. Okay. I'll just pretend this once. So, Erik Penny is a US songwriter, musician, and painter who has been living in Berlin for more than 13 years. That's actually the line I said right at the beginning.
You did.
So bear with me. But now, this is all new stuff.
Okay. Can I point out the first factual error? More than 12 years, because I moved here in 2008.
Let me correct that right away. I'll just put some tipbacks on the screen, and then it's all better. There you go.
September 2008. Okay. So we're about 12 years and 3 to 4 months into it.
That's true. Okay, fine. No, it's good to have a fact checker with me as well, because usually people don't do that, so it's good.
Hey man, I've gotten very, very, very sensitive to fact checking over the last 4 years. Gotten a little more.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Erik.
No. It's very deeply personal. Nothing to do with any U.S. politics. Scarred by alternative facts.
Okay. Yeah, well, I don't know what you're talking about still, but it's good that you do set the record straight then. So
that's what I'm here for.
So Erik grew up in El Paso, Texas, where he started his musical career as a bassist at the age of 16. Mm-hmm. A while later, he started a course in painting, which he aborted shortly before graduating to go on tour with his band. This success of the tour led to his decision to go to Los Angeles. Here he recorded several EPs and 2 studio albums, Footprints and The Linger Kiss. After various visits to Germany, Erik decided to move there for good in 2008. See, there I could have done the maths. I didn't get it all wrong, actually. Within a short period of time, he made strong connections in the local music scene. Erik's wonderful album, Bend, published in 2010, written and conceived entirely in Berlin, is a collaboration between many talented people that comprise the artistic and social hub of the wonderful city of Berlin, resulting in a flavorful piece of art. Many tours and support tours followed, and it is home to one of my favorite songs, Cherry, which I really like very, very much.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Nice.
After publishing Live at the Sofa Sessions in 2011, Erik withdrew from the music scene for 2 years and only returned to the stage in 2013 and played, amongst others, 4 opening concerts for Joe Cocker. His album, Heart Bleed Out, came out in 2014 on the Blackbird music label that was produced by Erik himself for the very first time, together with David Green. Just recently, his new single, The River, was published, a song with a hymnal depth that is juxtaposing a refreshingly positive melody with sinister lyrics, a great song for a world grappling with a pandemic looking for hope. Erik and I have an overlapping circle of friends, and I have been aware of Erik and his work for many years, and nonetheless, for reasons yet to be known, we had never really shared a longer conversation together. During the second lockdown, when Erik started a painting project on Instagram, which we will also still discuss in more detail, and he used one of my images as a reference for a painting, I was so overwhelmed by his art and his positive attitude that I thought, boy, have I missed out. So in order to make up for this lost time, I've invited Erik into the Yellow Van today, and I'm so very thrilled to have him on board. So without further ado, welcome to the Yellow Van, Erik. After 30 minutes.
That says it all.
That says it all, right?
That we had so much fun in the first 30 minutes that we just completely forgot about the intro.
No, not we. It's very kind of you to make this a we, but it's really me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of responsible for the structure a little bit, so no, this is all on me. But thank you very much.
You're kind of responsible for the structure. That's
a little bit, just ever so slightly. But I can just blame it on the margarita, on Martha Stewart. Actually,
You
Martha
can
Stewart.
actually blame lots of things on margaritas.
Yeah, totally.
Virtually anything. It might be a bad idea, but you can blame lots of stupid. Let's say lots of forgetfulness. Yeah. That was a great intro. That was really, really I'm not going to say I wish we started with that, but I'm glad we came back to it, because it would have been very, very sad to not hear that.
Totally.
Very actually succinct, well, kind of condensed, and also, for my ego, very, very complimentary and nicely worded things here and there. So thank you. Nice.
Well, like I said, you're very welcome. You can be back on the show anytime you like. You just, you've already proven that once. You do it again. You just, you're a great guest, Erik. Let's just continue on, shall we? I mean, I would like to know. One of the main questions, because we already talked so much about Texas, and I also have just had another little podcast with Jamie just recently because of his film A Conversation with America. Have you seen it actually?
Oh, not yet.
It's okay. No one will ever find out. Okay. There's only 10 listeners to this podcast, so you have nothing to worry about. Jamie might be one of them, though.
Yeah. He's probably spying on us right now, going, Erik Penny, I'm so disappointed in you, mate. I can't believe you haven't seen my documentary. I put my soul into that, man. I can't believe it. Oh, it's incredible.
Wow, your Jamie is not so bad actually. It's
I felt pretty bad, but that's okay.
Yeah, let's just say it was very bad. Let's just say, I think it's the safer option. It was very bad, Erik. That was a very bad Jamie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, but it's I watched it, and it's really a wonderful film.
Yeah.
About an America 4 years ago, and so we looked back a little bit.
Yeah.
And just compared notes between then and now.
Yeah.
And that's why it's also nice to have you here today, because he's the foreigner looking in on the United States a little bit. You're an American living abroad, which I think is also a very interesting perspective. Not to spend our time just talking about that, but it's also an interesting topic, I think.
Yeah.
So for me, what's interesting is how did you end up here? How did you end up in Berlin, actually, from Texas?
Yeah.
What made you move? That's a big move from Texas to Berlin.
Yeah. Then it was the Bundeswehr, if I was going to say it's in a simple way.
Bundeswehr?
My father-in-law was as a soldier in the Bundeswehr, and that's the German military, German Air Force, and he kept he was able to, by foregoing lots of promotions through his career, he kept his family near Bremen for the whole, for years and years. But then by the time his daughter Micah, my future wife at that point, was 16 years old, 16, 17, he was then finally going to have to make a move, be stationed elsewhere, after avoiding it for years and years to keep the family in one place. So he had the choice, the family had the choice, either to move to Rostock in 1993. So as you can imagine, Rostock in 93 would have been even less progressive than the metropolitan cultural center that it is today.
Yes, that was just 4 years after the wall came down, and so we had a very deprecated Eastern Germany at the time, with a lot of substance. Sorry, I also have to say, because this is a very Western German point of view.
Sure.
We always like to see Eastern Germany as and there was a deprecated East.
Right.
That doesn't do it justice either. But a lot of the cities had lost a lot of substance. Yes,
absolutely.
So 93.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and the contrast, of course, between for a family, going. So they went and visited Rostock to see what they would possibly be moving to. And they immediately decided, no, this is not, we can't do this. So the other option was to move to El Paso, Texas for 4 years, because there's a big Air Force base there, obviously American Air Force base, with a lot of cross-pollination of German and American soldiers. That time, there was always a really big contingent of it. I think at least a couple of thousand German soldiers plus their families in many cases, stationed in El Paso in order to do all this desert training with all these surface to air missile systems and all these things. I mean, like literally in El Paso, just outside of the city limits, there's giant, enormous fenced off areas of desert that are military reservation. And so, they're just like blowing up bombs, like 1 or 2 miles from like where I grew up, there would just be bombs blowing up out in the desert and shooting missiles into targets out there. Anyway, I digress.
It was a loud neighborhood, it seems.
No, it was never that. Yeah, you would think, right? You would think it was loud enough, but the sounds were always fairly muffled, but there was this kind of loud, there was always just like off in the distance, and you got used to it. And we also live pretty close to an airport, so it's either planes flying, 100 meters overhead or bombs going off in the distances. Just a typical day in El Paso. And speaking of which, I see you just finished your margarita. Also, just a typical day in El Paso.
Yes, absolutely. I can imagine. It feels like sitting on the veranda a little bit right now, actually.
Oh
yes.
Man, yeah. I wish it had been like that. I wish it had been so sexy and romantic. It was more like sitting in your kitchen with the air conditioning cranked up as high as it could go because it's 50 degrees Celsius. I always go to 110 degrees Fahrenheit outside, for 2 months out of the year.
I never got the conversion rate there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
I'm glad you helped out. I
think that's close to accurate. Probably 50 degrees Celsius is probably about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So hot as shit.
All right.
Just hot.
I take your word for it.
Yeah.
Hot as shit. Yes, definitely.
It's lizard temperatures, or dragon, if you will.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, back to the point. So her family then was they relocated, not relocated, but he was stationed in El Paso then, and so in '93 they came to El Paso, and Micah, my wife, was not yet. She hadn't finished. She was in gymnasium and hadn't finished that yet. Hadn't finished high school yet, and so she had to attend American University in order to get the equivalent of her higher level high school diploma. And that happened to be also the time that I was at the university there, the UTEP, the University of Texas at El Paso. And so we met there and started dating in 95. We started dating. And last year we celebrated our 25 years anniversary of our first kiss, which was kind of cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nice. Very nice.
Thanks. And,
did you celebrate with a margarita? Or?
We celebrated, what did we do?
You kissed? Maybe.
We did
that would have
something
been
really special. It was October last year. We did something really special. I got a babysitter back when one could still get babysitters. So it wasn't October 2000. Oh no, wait a minute. Oh my God, I take it back. So 95 years. So it was October 2020. And that's the sad thing is we couldn't get a babysitter. We couldn't do any of that shit. We just had I think we ordered sushi or something and sat at home with the kids.
But you kissed.
We kissed.
I mean, that's
sure.
Yes.
We kissed every day.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, yeah. Every day. I can't leave the house or she can't leave the house without us kissing. We wake up in the morning and give her a kiss and last thing before we go to sleep. Yeah. Romance should not be taken for granted. And also,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That was a very nice little sidestep there. Yes, I agree with you entirely.
It's
Absolutely.
important. It's vital.
So congratulations again for 25 years of first kiss. That's a big date. That's really amazing. Yes, very nice.
Yeah.
So then you fell in love with her, basically, at the university.
We met, fell in love, started dating, and it was a little complicated because we got together in late 95, and by mid-90s or by early 97, she had gotten a study place. Like her family's plan was, of course, never to stay in the States. Her plan was never to stay in the States. And so she applied for universities in Germany and she got a study place in Gießen to study journalism. And so in early 97, she went back to Germany and was back to El Paso a couple of times before summer of 97 when I then moved to Los Angeles. And when I moved to Los Angeles, the first thing I did, all planned, of course, first thing I did was about less than a week after I got to LA, was to go jump on a plane and go visit her in Gießen. And so then between 97 and 99, we went back and forth. We had a long distance relationship between LA and Gießen, which was...
That's a long distance relationship.
That's a long distance. No email, no internet. I mean, there was internet, but I didn't even have a computer in 97, 90. And so crazily enough, we wrote letters to each other and we actually...
Which is good for romance.
It's very romantic and have phone calls and everything. But that kind of long distance relationship is very, very, very bad for that romance that I spoke of. It's difficult to keep that really working. So it's difficult and it was challenging. And one of the last times that she was visiting regularly, though, she would just save up her money and come to LA for like 2 months at a time in between semesters and take extended breaks as long as she could and do work from LA and do internships with journalists with TV stations and things in Los Angeles. And then she was there one of the last times, and we were just saying, this is just crazy. This is so hard. How are we going to do this? I said, how could you stay here? How could we stay together? Like, how could we be in the same place? And she jokingly said, well, we have to get married. And I just said, would you like to get married?
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of romance, like the worst, least romantic proposal ever. It was more like a proposition than a proposal. No. So but she said yes, and then we took it seriously and did it. And then we lived together. I mean, she dropped out of school, told her parents, hey, I'm marrying Erik and staying in Los Angeles. And her parents said, holy shit. All right. They flew over for the wedding. We did it like 2 months later. Got married at a little Venice Beach cafe that I worked at, actually, at the time.
As a bartender?
No, as a waiter at the time. All right. Breakfast and lunch joint, right, 100 meters from the beach. And a little place called the Brick House that a friend of mine, a bandmate of mine, actually, that he and I came out to LA from El Paso together. He started working at this little restaurant, and then within like 6 months, lucked into actually being the owner of it. This guy always stumbled on like gold nuggets in the street. The owner was just sick of having the place and said, "Hey, Tony, you're my manager. You've been working for me as kind of a manager in a way. Do you just want to take over the business? I'm sick of it." And he was like, "Yes, please, I'll take it." And so he did.
Nice.
Blah blah blah. It's the whiskey starting to talk.
Oh no! Oh, dude, like that's it's I'm hanging on your lips.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah, exactly.
So we got married.
So
yeah, and lived there in LA for then from together from 99 until 2008. Your question was how I came to Berlin. I remember now.
Yes, but this is a setup that's very necessary, I think, to understand why you ended up there. So
it is
totally
the only way to really explain it. Just to say that I came to Berlin for love is true, but not anywhere close to complete history or fully accurate. And
seeing that this is an educational podcast.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I think we owe it to the listeners.
Exactly,
yes.
We do, and we're here to please.
Exactly.
So then it was around 2004, actually, when we had been through 4 years of George W. Bush, and we kind of quaint. It's so cute and quaint to think that we thought that was bad times, that we thought.
Yeah, now when you see George W. Bush and Obama like kind of shaking hands in public, you're like, they're like best mates, and at different times. Definitely.
Well, at different times and a different level. I mean, George Bush and Dick Cheney, those fuckers, they did a lot of really, really horrible shit, of course. They did really awful, terrible shit with the response to 9/11, or what some hardcore conspiracy theorists would say, the commission of 9/11, which I'm not going to go there, but their response to it with taking advantage of it to engage in a horrible, bloody conflict in Iraq that should have never happened, a completely illegal overthrow of a dictator, someone who is quite a war criminal himself, but using something like that as an excuse to go in and find weapons of mass destruction. It was all so illegal and also wrong. And one of the things I remember the best about immediately after yeah, I think I saw it either on a T-shirt or somewhere where someone said these words against, going to war over 9/11, and they said, or it was written somewhere, our cries of anguish are not a call to war. And I thought that was so beautiful and poignant, and exactly what needed to be said and embraced at the time, which unfortunately wasn't, at least by the US government and by the Pentagon and by the war machine that keeps America chugging along. And so I thought that was a really beautiful thing to say, because there was no, sure, they were idiots calling for, going over and killing every Arab they could find. There were people I knew at the time who would express those sentiments. Oh, just gotta fucking nuke them. That seems to come up every few years in America, that just gotta fucking nuke them. That's just such a thing. I can only imagine that's predominantly an American thing, that some idiot in Arkansas thinks that the solution is actually to just drop a fucking bomb. We did that twice already in Japan, and I almost said it didn't work. Well, I guess if the goal was to completely crush one of our opponents to the point that they had to capitulate, okay, it worked, but it was definitely
at what cost?
Fucking, like, they talk. You learn about it when you learn about this in the States. They say, well, that it stopped the war that could have cost many more millions of soldiers' lives and innocent civilians' lives. Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe it's true. It doesn't mean they had to drop the bombs on city centers. They didn't have to destroy Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They could have dropped it in the countryside somewhere and said, like, well, look at that. What do you think that'll do to Hiroshima? No, they just wanted to inflict maximum damage. It's getting a little dark, and I don't really want to go there, but it's all part of being a citizen of any country. But America has, I'll speak for myself because I can only do that as an American. America has such a bloody history that it's very difficult not to go into this really dark rabbit hole if you're someone who spent any time questioning it and thinking about it. And I don't sit around thinking about it for hours. I'm not a philosopher, and I don't study. I don't even read that much. I'm not even that smart, but I know enough about things or at least I feel like my understanding of things like this, not to be arrogant, but is the right understanding, at least in a very, very general sense. Like, as opposed to, let's fucking nuke them. My perspective, my point of view, my beliefs are objectively right compared to that. I think
a sentence like that doesn't leave any space for any context. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, there is no contextual perspective in any way. That's the problem. But I would also tell you something. I understand exactly what you're saying. But yesterday, and I watched. I know this is not really related, but it just comes to mind anyway. I watched Hamilton, the musical. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not. Just part.
Another one you haven't watched. No. Well, now you got two things you have to watch already. So it's on. Okay, it's on Disney, right? Right now, Disney Plus.
Right. I love.
That's why I
love Disney Plus.
Yeah, I love Disney. It's great. I mean, hey Disney, we love you. You're just awesome.
It's really
anyway. So exactly. So, but for this, it's really worth it. It's an amazingly beautiful musical.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-blowing. It is so well written, so well conceived. The music is great. Just the fact that the whole cast is actually mainly black people playing, the founding fathers and stuff is in itself great.
Yep.
And yesterday I made the decision to, whatever we talk about today, it's very easy to pick on the United States and to be critical of them, but in this podcast, you will have to take the critical point, and I will only talk of the positive things of the United States today.
Very good.
This is a decision that I took yesterday because there's also great things that have come from the United States.
Absolutely.
And just bashing the United States all the time is also not helping anybody.
No,
so,
it's not. Yes. You're right.
But I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you with everything you're saying as well.
Yeah.
But my part today will be I love the United States because, to be honest with you, I am also some part of me is American in the United States. I consume a lot of stuff that comes from the United States.
Sure.
I watch a lot of American late night. I don't know. Do you stay in touch with what's going on in the United States? Do you watch any American late night?
Roughly, yeah. I mean, I love Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is like one of me.
Yeah, I love Jimmy Kimmel.
Absolutely.
Stephen Colbert is like also like I love a lot of. I watch a lot of that, and a lot of my education when it comes to contemporary American stuff is mainly American late night.
Yeah.
So
there's so much to be gotten from that, isn't there? There's so. I think the late night Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, we just leave aside. He's just like he dropped the ball so badly. I think. Like, Jimmy Fallon, you were so funny, dude. But like, I guess the guy with the guitar, like the doing awesome impressions and stuff. That was kind of his thing, anyway. But yeah, Stephen Colbert, fantastic. Trevor Noah, not American.
You know, that gives me special pleasure because he's South African, you know, and I spent a lot of time of my life in South Africa. My formative years, which Vicky always has to laugh when I say that, my formative years. But and him making it big in the United States as a colored guy is just amazing to me. I just love him. Trevor Noah is just great.
He's sharp as a tack. To replace Jon Stewart is such a high challenge. You know, it's almost impossible. We were my wife and I were so pleased when we started watching Trevor Noah. We miss, obviously, I miss seeing him actually with humans interaction, because that was where he really shines, you know.
Yes.
But we're so happy that he did such an amazing job filling the giant Jon Stewart shoes.
Yeah,
really big deal.
And he did it very well. Yeah. He did it. He made it his own thing. I think that's the best way you can fill any shoes.
Yeah,
by not missing whoever was before you and making it your own thing. And he's done that. Absolutely magnificent.
Totally. South Africa. I'm sorry. I just have to quickly digress. I had no idea you spent formative years. What, teen years or?
Yeah, 14 until I was 20. I did my A levels and everything then as well.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay. Now I've been a bit like astounded by your level of English proficiency. And
why? Because I do not speak like this.
Yeah,
I have masters at TH a long time ago. Yes.
I have when I listen to Morrissey singing, I don't think of his band The Smiths. I think of his band The Smiths.
Yeah, it's just like this. But after I've released my tongue out of a knot, it worked quite well.
Do you know Flula Borg by any chance? Flula
Borg. No.
Flula Borg. He's this German guy who's obviously doing a caricature of the super stereotypical German actor. Right. And he's obviously like a theater guy and like stand-up comedian. Flula Borg, check it out when you have a chance. He keeps being on, is a pretty regular guest on Conan O'Brien. All right. Conan's been in like Oktoberfests in Germany with him and stuff. And he's kind of like making fun of himself, all Germans, and the viewer at the same time, you know, and it's Flula Borg.
I will definitely check it out. I'll also link to it, obviously, for other people to see.
Well, you have to check it if you like it. You might think it's offensive and stupid, but I don't think so. I think
no. There's nothing offensive about any German jokes at all. Yeah. I think if there's one thing you learn as a German is that it's totally fine to laugh about Germans because also of our history, which is one of the things that how can I put this? This is interesting to me, you know, being German is I've been thinking of patriotism a lot lately, you know, because I'm totally unpatriotic. I also believe actually that patriotism is only in the rarest cases it's good, because generally it puts your nation or your belief in a community that is not even, you have nothing to do with it. It's not of your doing.
Right.
You're born into it, right?
Right. Right. Thank you.
So it's just coincidence, nothing else. So to be proud of something like this is a little weird to me.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about how patriotism really only works if you acknowledge all the worst things about your country and decide to like your country anyway.
Bam.
Because a lot of the times it's different. It's like you blow out all the stuff that's happened that's been terrible. That goes for every country. Right. And you think of all the things that have gone so well by forgetting all the rest and what led up to the great moments. Mm-hmm. And that to me cannot be a very healthy relationship. Right. But patriotism very often works like that.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing about, and I think this is nonetheless that comes through my background of being a German, because I have nothing to love about the German history in that sense,
Right.
because it is actually something that has a lot to do with shame, with stuff like that. A lot of people will not like to hear this, but for me, it's not so much a question of shame, at least not anymore. For me, it's a question of responsibility.
Yeah.
And for Germans to maintain and uphold the memory of what happened in Germany, this is one of the greatest responsibilities that we have. And in that responsibility, you maybe can find something resembling patriotism.
There you go.
At least, right?
I think that's very, very well said.
So that's just, some of this, because I've been thinking about patriotism a lot. And lately I've also been reading a lot of the United States. I'm trying to educate myself on the United States more, because there's so much that comes forth from it and that has also influenced the rest of the world in so many ways, in good and bad ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it has such a rich history.
Yeah.
So my point being, nothing really.
No point is also a good point.
Yes, but I think it sets up the stage a little bit, at least, because we were still like another 50 minutes ago on the point why you then decided to. I'm throwing all structure overboard. I don't know if anyone's realized that.
Basically, you kept this thread. I mean, you're the moderator. You obviously have to keep the thread.
I'm trying, Erik. I'm trying. So now that we set the stage, maybe the answer then, how did it happen that you then made the conscious choice also to go from the United States and move to Germany?
Well, it was on election night, 2004 or 2000, was it end of 2003? Wait, is it 2000? Yeah. So when George Bush defeated, who ran against him? John Kerry. When John Kerry then lost to George W. Bush, and we were there at our little place in LA we had about 10 or 15 people there, including French friend, Argentinian friend from Buenos Aires, few other international friends and a bunch of American friends, all of whom, of course, were like on the same page as us. And we were all just devastated when it was just super clear that George W. Bush was winning again. So my wife and I decided at that point, that night, we actually kind of like wept and hugged our friends and cheers to our imminent departure from the U.S. We decided we're gonna go move back to Germany. We're getting the fuck out of here. Well, things don't go so quickly. We didn't have any desire to just run away or anything. So we stayed another 4 years, doing our things, paying off this credit card debt we had amassed, and saving money. And then also my wife applied for and received her American citizenship during that time too. And that process took like 2 years. And that was a situation which is pretty atypical, because normally if you're going to get usually Germany does not typically allow dual citizenship. You have to, if you're going to get American citizenship, she technically would normally have to have given up her German citizenship. But since she was able to present a case and prove essentially that if she gave up her that she needed to keep her American citizenship and her German citizenship because she wanted to move to Germany and continue working with a bunch of clients in the U.S., the German government made an exception, and she was able to get her citizenship in the States and keep her German passport. And so then finally, after all of that going down, then in 2008, then we summer 2008, we just packed everything up and packed up our 3 cats and moved to Berlin. 3 cats.
3 cats?
3 cats.
Not bad.
Imported.
Not bad.
Yeah. I would never do that again.
No, next time 4 cats.
Yeah.
At least.
A horse.
At least 4.
4
and 2 dogs.
Yeah, in a horse.
Don't forget the dogs.
In a horse. Sew them into that horse's gut and jump on the plane. So they
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, we the cats have all since died. The last one died a couple of years ago, but they were all super old. And
but it has been 12 years and 4 months. Like
12 years. The oldest one, when the oldest one died, he was 18.
Wow, that's a good age for a cat.
Totally,
that's Methuselah, I think.
Wow, listen to you. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Do I sound full of myself again? I have that problem sometimes.
If you're referencing Methuselah, then you're definitely I don't even get the reference, actually. I just know the name of the Is Methuselah live a long time? Was it a cat?
It's something in the Bible. Some guy in the Bible who's introduced over 2 pages. He's the son of, and the son of, and the son of, and the son. Like.
Oh my God!
Oh, is he actually? Or was he so early? I'm not sure. I might be making stuff up. He might be so old that he didn't have that many ancestors.
Okay, but he's lived a super crazy long time.
Well, apparently he's the oldest guy in the book.
Wow.
The book meaning the Bible. You know, and the Bible we all know is super old and thick.
Super
and
really thick.
Big.
Lots.
Yeah.
Lots
of people in there.
True.
So he must have been real old.
Yep. The dude is old. That would explain why I have no idea what the story is. I was raised fairly strict Catholic, actually.
All right. Catholic, really?
Yeah.
Do you have some Irish ancestry then?
Yeah, like my grandmother's side, there was like Irish and Polish immigrants over to Canada.
So always been very strongly democratic then, I suppose, as well, right?
That's a good question. I know they were super into Kennedy when Kennedy as the first, Irish Catholic was elected. Sure. But no, like my grandparents on both sides were actually very, very staunch Republicans.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like my grandmother, my last surviving grandparent was my grandmother on my mom's side, Miss Davis, and she died like 3 years ago. But she voted for Trump the first time around.
All right. I think over the years it probably gets lost a little bit. I just yesterday listened to a very good podcast that I enjoy very much. It's called The History of the 20th Century. Okay. I take a lot of my knowledge from there. I have to add a little postscriptum here, or I don't know. In this case, it might be a post verbosum, if that's a word. Now I have just invented it, I suppose. A big shout out to Mark Painter, who is responsible for the podcast History of the 20th Century. I enjoyed listening to it. You should also definitely try it out, because the amazing thing about this podcast is that it is reflecting the history of the 20th century, but it always provides enough context to also understand why things are happening the way that they are. And I do believe, and I think Mark Painter shares this point of view, that context is key. So a heartfelt thank you to you, Mark, for a most enjoyable, interesting, and truly educational podcast that I enjoyed listening to immensely. So with this, back to the podcast. I highly recommend it. It's just one guy going through the history of the 20th century, but with a lot of prequel as well, like giving you the context of also other centuries. And he said yesterday, I was listening to an episode where it was about the Republican and the Democratic Party, and how the Democratic Party and the Republican Party weren't divided so much on ideological levels in the beginning, right, but really mainly still based on the Civil War. Right. The party lines were just about abolitionists, non-abolitionists, right, and also about all the new people that moved to the United States, like people that weren't Protestant, because the United States were predominantly Protestant for a long time. And then when Catholics and Polish people came, they took them up into the party to give them a political home, basically, the Democrats.
Into the Democratic Party.
Democratic Party, right, exactly. Right. So that's why mainly, at least at that time, but you just proved what I said totally wrong. Or time has passed, and then we all know that can change things, obviously. Yeah. A lot of Catholic people just were basically considered to be with the Democrats all the time.
I think that is generally... I think that is generally accurate. I don't think that's,
generally, exactly. I know.
Well, it's not like, oh God, dude, you're so wrong. That's so not true. But clearly, I can only speak for my own family, and I will be very honest and say that I
that sound is just so good. It's just so good. That's such a nice song. Right. Yeah, totally. I will.
Cutting myself off. That'll be my last.
I will sell that to Bushmills for a lot of money. Ooh. How do you think how do you think I produce the show?
Shit's not free.
Exactly.
Floating mic stands are not free.
No, you betcha.
No.
So I would like to also get a little bit into how was it for you now the last 4 years also living abroad in Germany? I think that's for me an interesting question because did you get to hear a lot of, what's like, like how do you feel about this? Like what's wrong with America? Did you get that a lot?
All the fucking time, man. All the
Tiresome,
time.
right?
Yeah, I was so sick of it, and I'm so glad that at least that question, that simple question, what's up with Trump? Like that won't be asked anymore. No, I got really sick of talking about it. It was asked a lot. And for me personally, I got really sick of talking about it because it was really difficult for me not to get angry talking about it because we can't talk about it like it's past tense. We can't talk about it as though Trump is done, as though this insane division, this polarization, and this craziness on the right, the conspiracy theories, the QAnon shit, the misinformation, the false information, the lies that all these people have been fed and have willingly, happily swallowed. That's far from over. I think it's far from over. So let me just say that I'm just glad that at the moment I won't be asked any. So hey, what's up with Trump? Because how do you answer that? So I would get quite. Yeah, I mean, there's almost no one ever asked it in a sort of challenging way, but occasionally, once or twice, sure. I think someone asked me in sort of like, man, so what's up with Trump? Did you vote for Trump? Are you fucking kidding me? Did I vote? Did I vote?
Can we first have a conversation before you judge my character?
Yeah. What's up with America? What's up with Trump? I don't know what's up with America. You want to know what's up with America? You got to go way back. You got to go hundreds of years back and see how we started. See why we based our today's America on things that we unfortunately haven't gotten past.
I think this is true for everything, actually. Exactly that we it's always important to create a context. And the further we go back in time, the more we will understand. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the times we don't take the time to go further back, and we try to understand things in this current moment. And then we wonder why it is all quite superficial and dealing with stereotypes. Yeah. And I think the United States is a very complex country with a very complex history. I know it's not Europe, but what happened in 300 years there is something that has changed the world. So therefore, and on a lot of different levels. Yeah. How do you look at the United States? And what are your hopes for the United States in the near future? Because I saw you, I have to say as well, I saw a photo of you on Instagram that was very, very beautiful. It was just like a close up. Your wife probably took it, and you had I think a whiskey. Was it a whiskey?
Yeah, no, I'm not entirely sure. It was a Störtebeker.
It was a Störtebeker. You had a Störtebeker in your hand, and you just had this very beautiful expression, like kind of like, I'm caught in the moment, basically, expression. Yeah. Caught red-handed. You had a couple of tears in your eyes, and you're just like, I'm listening to my president. Yeah. And that said so much. So what are your, first of all, actually, how did you feel on the day of the inauguration? What are your highlights?
I was taken completely by surprise by how emotional it was for me. I had no expectation that I would actually feel so overwhelmed and so like, close to tears so much of the time, and then it just kind of spilled over, and I was there's a term that I saw some of my friends posting on Facebook about it. I was just ugly crying. You know what I mean? Where you're not even just kind of like, oh my God. I was just like, oh my God. Like just weeping, like sobbing, like heaving, like my shoulders and my chest. It turned out, as it turned out, Micah, my wife, was still at work. I was sitting by myself on the couch, drinking a beer, watching the inauguration, going like my son had a play date, so he was in his room with his little friend. My daughter was off somewhere else with another friend at another home. And I was just sitting there by myself, just like in a blanket with a beer, going like, oh my God, Trump is gone. Joe Biden is president. Kamala Harris is vice president. It was just, and this says nothing about how perfect I think Joe Biden is or can be as president. There's nothing to do about valuing him or not valuing him as president. I have total misgivings about him and criticisms. I think generally he's going to be fine for the system as it exists. Joe Biden, I think, will be a very good, very effective president. There's a million things wrong with the system, including why the fuck is there an 80-year-old man as president? Why? What the fuck? Why? But Joe Biden has committed his entire life to public service and has stood for some very, 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 let's say, stood for, in a general sense, through his entire career, for things that are, I believe, for the common good, for the good of the common person. So none of this is about judging Joe Biden. All of it is about realizing as it was happening that I was actually letting go of 4 years of extreme pent-up emotion, having Donald fucking Trump sitting in that seat and being this joke, this puppet of his own, a puppet of his own ego. No one else was pulling the strings. A fucking monster is too strong of a word, because that implies like Darth Vader or something. Like, whoa, really? He was just like joke strong. He was like a joke that went too far. But he was there and he caused tremendous damage. And he caused damage that we're going to see reflected for generations in America, because he and his administration just pushed so many federal judges into places and just seated so many judges, people who are going to have, I think those people have like life tenure. The Supreme Court obviously being extremely stacked by now. It's not like Trump was alone, but he was at the head of all of it. And all these people just followed, and Mitch McConnell just followed, and all these people, literally up until the riots at the Capitol, everyone was following him. And then at that point, or shortly after, a lot of people said, oh, we can't really do this. But then a shitload of people, politicians, Congress people, kept following him. Anyway, when it happened that there was actually a peaceful transition of power at the Capitol, and there were actually, Lady Gaga, I don't care much about Lady Gaga, but she stood up there and sang the fucking national anthem, man. And Jennifer Lopez got up there and killed it too. And Garth Brooks, there's also, I feel part cheesy and part like real. It made me feel for the first time in many years, at least 4 years, that there was something to hope for in America. Something to hope for.
That was my question. What is that hope? What would you?
Well, that was your question.
No, I'm asking that now. No, you answered my question perfectly. But what is that hope? Something to hope for is vague. What do you think is your concrete hope? What do you think could happen in the United States?
I can't really hope for it. What I want to hope for, I can't believe would ever happen. Because I actually believe, and this is now like back to like the kind of like crashing down to the earth, sort of like darker side of it all, because I think America is a failed experiment, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere good in the next, even let's say the next couple generations. I think it has a shelf life. I think it's too big. I think it's too split, and it's too different. I don't think you can actually have one central government that can speak for all these different cultures. It's giant physically and it's giant culturally. And there are people in parts of America. I'm fairly middle of the road. I'm very liberal, but I'm not like an extreme leftist liberal. I'm just very, very, I'm very liberal and very for good social programs and human rights and good things for people and people getting what they need and not like fucking killing each other, whether it means killing people in prison or killing people in Afghanistan. It's just, I prefer not to have that happen. So what I wanted to say with that is that I could still go to a lot of different parts of America and encounter people with whom I have so little in common that I can't imagine ever really us agreeing on how our society and our culture and our government should work to represent us. So there's that can be said, I think, to a certain extent in a lot of countries, but I think America is a pretty extreme example. I mean, southern states, northern, I mean, I almost can't think of like two more different types of people than like some super conservative, racist southerner to some like super liberal elite, you know, New York or Bostonian or something. They're so different that
yes, and it's becoming more and more obvious as well, like throughout the last years.
Yes, totally. And that those people should be actually under the same government that somehow should represent them equally and understand them and know what to do. I don't know if it's possible. And the country is so built on so many dark realities and also based on so many current dark or negative realities, mostly the reality of money, mostly the reality of you know, people trying to, you know, all these lobbyists trying to get things done, and the NRA and all these giant companies, all these giant pharmaceutical companies and giant energy companies and giant automobile companies and giant media companies having so much sway over what's going on that no one is really paying attention to what the average person wants. They're just making sure the average person has their car and their TV and their medicine and their booze, and then it's fine. And then all these giant companies are satisfied because they're taking care of keeping everyone kind of numb.
But it's not entirely just a problem in the United States. I think the political problems of the United States, but keeping people numb. I mean, you know, I'm also going out on a limb here. I think it's not as black and white as that either anywhere. I think in the United States there is a lot of black and white going on from observing it from the outside, because you see it by the schism and the polarization that's going on. That usually only happens when there isn't a lot of gray, right? That you know, the different flavors, they usually make it a little bit easier to find a compromise or something like that. So I think that's safe to say, but it's also not just exclusive to the United States. I mean, this is how you know, capitalism works also generally, keeping people numb, giving them enough money to buy their things and stuff so that the economy keeps on running. So when I asked and now this is interesting because the inventor of that system basically is the United States, right? Yeah. So when I ask the question to you now, what would have to happen in the United States to change these things? I think that is to a large degree nonetheless also related to a lot of other parts of the world, because the American system has been adopted by many other countries, or it has been exported to many other countries. And they have given it their own different flavor as well, obviously, but I think when we think change and also positive transformation in any sense, we have to think it globally as well. And people were still looking to the United States for a lot of these things. So that's why this question is interesting, and interesting not just for the United States actually. I can't offer any answers there either.
No, nobody can.
If I could
solve the problems.
Solve the world problems single-handedly.
Exactly.
Tune in next week.
Pack up this podcast and send it off all to the world, to all the world leaders. We have something for you, a very important package.
Yes. Yeah. So I think but what could, on the other hand, I see things like I see Hamilton, which I think, a few years ago would have created much bigger outcry that you have a black cast, playing the founding fathers.
Mm-hmm.
I see an Amanda Gorman that stands, on stage during the inauguration, giving a fantastic speech.
Yeah.
I'm saying no. I will reach out to her and ask her if she will come on this podcast.
There you go.
And I will, and I have nothing to lose, right? Because I would love to speak to her.
Literally nothing to lose.
Never. I have never anything to lose.
No.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I admire her. I think it was amazing. Her poem was amazing. A lot of the lines that she said stick in my head to this day now.
Yeah.
And she's very inspirational. And for her to stand up there, like she said herself, a skinny little black girl, dreaming of the presidency and then finding herself reciting for the new president, is very powerful. And I know that the United States are also about showmanship, right? We have definitely gotten that from the United States all over the world. Like when it comes to entertainment showmanship, that's
Boy, I'll say.
the United States.
True.
Exactly.
True. The Voice.
The Voice and The Voice, all of it. I mean, it's all really American and it's good. And it's something I'm very grateful for because I like to be entertained.
Yeah.
And I think most other people like to be entertained as well. So going again with what I said earlier, I will be the positive voice towards the United States today.
Good. I like it.
So for her to stand up there and recite this poem is also something that wasn't necessarily happening, a few years back to imagine this.
No.
On the other hand, you also have to think, is this just showmanship? Is this like the liberal, like you said, northern part of the United States, just also knowing how to impress and then everything backstage is going on as usual, business as usual or not? And it's sometimes hard to tell with the United States. What is your take on that? My
take is that there's so much gray area there that you could never know. If you're extremely, extremely jaded and you want to believe that it's just always bullshit and it's never actually heartfelt and never real, then you can believe that. You can point to a million different examples, I'm sure, and say like, oh, that's just all show. But back to romance, man. There's a part of, hopefully, there's a part of most people, and certainly a part of artists, and people who need that. Most people need it. But so there's a romantic part of the artistic spirit that needs to believe that there's something real about these beautiful moments, that they couldn't possibly be manufactured. At least not completely to the point of being fully inauthentic and meaningless. So you'd have to be pretty far gone and pretty jaded to actually think. I think that this Amanda Gorman piece was completely staged, and I think it was real. I think it was also used for of course that purpose, of course, certainly, but I think it was real, man. I think it was real. I think there was a lot of realness going on there that was in stark contrast to the shitty, superficial shit show of lies and borderline evil. And I only say borderline evil because I don't want to actually attribute like the Trump I don't want to attribute real evil to the Trump administration, because I think it's giving him too much power. I think he's like stupid, like third grade evil. Like, I'm going to step on your glasses and kill your rabbit evil. That's not evil. That's just fucking mean. They're just mean and stupid, but just smart enough to get a lot of shit done. Anyway, and that's not there now. The Biden-Harris administration and all that's happening around it, and already with the appointees and the people they're appointing, and the first black commander and not commander chief, commander of the Pentagon, of the armed forces. I don't remember what exactly his post is called, but like already groundbreaking, milestone setting things within the first like week of this new administration. And sure, they had like this this obligation to do that. Just go like, okay, we're the new guys and this is a big deal. There's never been a change like this in the States. There's never been a transition from this to this. Like anything would have been better. You know what I mean? Any Democratic administration would have been better. I happen to think actually that Biden is really, I think his heart is in the right place. I really do. I really think that he's not at all a bad guy. You know, he's definitely like business as usual for Washington politics in many, 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 many ways. He's fairly middle of the road Democrat. He's not extremely liberal. He's not extremely progressive. He's been forced to be more progressive seeming and leaning because of like Bernie Sanders' candidacy, because of Elizabeth Warren, and because of like AOC and the whole squad of politicians really pushing for like a Green New Deal. So he's being forced to do that, which is good. That's how politics works. That's how politics can and should work. But yeah, he's fucking almost 80 years old, and he's this guy who's not like by himself blowing anyone's mind. But that's not really the point. That's not how politics in America works, as even Donald Trump showed. Because if Donald Trump hadn't had an army of spineless, power-hungry shitheels. Stooges.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, shitheels also fine.
Yeah,
shitheels. Let's go with that. Let's go with shitheel stooges. Yeah.
I love shitheels. That's one of my favorite words. Because it just like someone explained that to me once. First time I heard shitheels was from, it was in Los Angeles when I was working at this Venice Beach cafe called the Brick House where I got married. And there was this, funnily enough, he was John Cusack's lawyer.
All right.
There was always all these like fairly famous, it's LA, famous people have to go somewhere. And this was right at the beach, right down the street from Malibu and all that. They all got to go somewhere. Well, John Cusack used to come in all the time. He was an asshole, total asshole.
Who was?
John Cusack, the actor.
Oh, really?
Total.
Yeah. High Fidelity.
Yeah,
I love that film.
Totally. Hey, love his acting. He's not a good customer. One time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. One time, and this was not just one, it wasn't just in once and he was in a bad mood. He used to come in, he used to work out at Gold's Gym around the corner from this place where I work.
He was a consistently bad customer.
And he'd always come in, always make sure he and his like 3 or 4 person entourage, they would come in from working out at Gold's Gym and they would come in right at like 3 o'clock, right when we were closing. And they knew we were closing because they'd wanted to have like the fewest possible fans there. And so they would come in literally like at 1 minute before 3 o'clock. And then sit there and eat and eat and eat and eat all their chicken breasts and egg whites because they just been all working out and everything, and just like have kind of like a business powwow there. And he was just a total dick. He was totally rude to us, and he was like and I was the manager of the place at the time, and he would actually like just like yell at me like, oh God. Anyway, it was awful. But his manager, his manager's lawyer, was a really funny guy, and I would always kind of chat with him a little bit. Point being, one time he said something about this fucking shit heel. And I was like, I've heard that term. What is a shitheel? And he looked at me and he goes, it's somebody who fucking walks in shit. What do you think? And I was like, oh, okay. This seems obvious now that you say it.
Things can be so simple, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I was a kid from El Paso, man. I didn't.
You never stopped in shit, obviously. There's no shit in El Paso.
No, we have cowboy boots. You scrape that. You scrape
that shit right off.
There's no treads in the bottom of a cowboy boot. They're flat on the bottom for crushing rattlesnake heads. And
yeah. And for shit, maybe because you might step into cow shit and stuff. Often,
I would say. And
often,
you got to be able to take your knife and just scrape the bottom right off.
Maybe there is a correlation there. I don't know.
True story.
Anyway, we will. Since this is an educational podcast, I will definitely post something in the show notes about cowboy boots and shit. Yep. I think that's definitely going to be worth everybody's time.
Yep. Okay. Just quickly on that note, then I will say for the next episode, you can research why the cowboy boots have a sharp tip. What the sharp tip is for.
Oh. Yep. To kicks someone in the ass or something like that. No, maybe. Well, I will research. And then maybe even for this episode still, I would say.
See if you come up with the same answer that I would tell you, which is probably an urban myth from my side. You might come up with some truth.
Oh, no, you have to share it. You have to share it. No, you have to share it.
Do I have to share it now?
You've already... Yeah, you do.
Okay.
You do. I mean, otherwise, how am I going to put this into the other podcast?
Okay.
You know, I have to tell the other guests, look, you're very important to me, but unfortunately, I have to make a reprise of Erik, the previous guest, so I'm going to have to cut your time. You know, it doesn't work.
That would suck.
It's terrible.
It's unfair.
It's terrible showmanship. You know, if it's one thing I learned from the United States, it's terrible showmanship.
If there's anything I stand for, showmanship.
It's good showmanship, exactly. So, share with us the tip of the cowboy boot.
There's the pointed tip of the cowboy boot. Quite a hard little tip because it's either snakeskin or leather or something. Normally these boots are. And so the tip is really pointed. And what that apparently is for is when you're chasing a cockroach through the room and it gets cornered in the corner of a room and you get the toe of your boot in there and squish.
I think that's a perfect explanation. I don't think I have to research anything. Also, the sound you made, by the way, is just almost as good as you opening the bottle of whiskey early on.
Okay, good.
Just very. I'm going to sample the shit out of that as well, just so you know,
Please.
And sell it to some sort of a pest control client. I don't know. I don't know, something like that.
Cockroach killing, probably works.
Cockroachkilling.com.
There you go.
Maybe there's a
It works.
page like that. I don't know.
I'm sure.
I'll research that as well.
I'm sure the sound works for small mice as well. Probably about the same.
So as the more universal, the better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they can use it for everything.
Seriously.
You know, what you just said about Joe Biden, I agree as well. He's not anything out of the ordinary. He's the biggest tent, right? I mean, this is what the Democrats always say. He has to pitch the biggest tent, even though that sounds a little weird for a 78-year-old.
Yeah,
but anyway, but he has a lot more support. And I think at this time after Donald Trump, it would most probably be difficult to have somebody that is more, more cutting edge, more left of center than he is. I love AOC. I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is an amazingly inspiring woman. I've seen you too, right? Yeah. I mean, she has all the right answers to all of the things. Well, basically,
she's smart. She's smart and she's scrappy and she doesn't give a shit. She just, she has nothing to lose. She has nothing to lose. And so she's going for it, which is really inspiring to see. It's people like her who actually give me faith in American politics.
Totally.
In fact, in America, period. Like if America can continue, it's because of people like her.
Yes. I absolutely agree with you.
She might be our president in 10 years.
And see, now we get back to the hope that we were talking about earlier. So that maybe hope can also be instilled in people. So if you have somebody like AOC, she can be at least, I mean, it's always difficult to personify hope with one person because the danger of you being disappointed is usually quite high. But still, it is good to have hope. And I think if anyone deserves, this kind of hope to be tied to her, then it's her after everything that I know about her. So I will just ask the question from earlier about the hope to you a little differently to maybe get a little bit of a more optimistic reply from you. What do you love about the United States? What do you think should be preserved at all costs?
Oh man, I love so
with all the change we're talking about, because we're talking about change and everything. But what is really great about the United States? We don't say that enough, I believe.
I think you're right. I think we don't say that enough. I think it's taken for granted so much. It's kind of a given so often that America makes all the best movies and has all the best music, and none of that is saying these things. Those things aren't true, but you know what I mean? Like it does make outputs so much pop culture, like so much great. A lot of great stuff, a lot of shit, but a lot of even sometimes the shit is so impressive that it's so influential. It doesn't have to be great or heady to be impressive. So we export and we create and export so many, let's just say, really, truly wonderful artistic products. We also, geographically, the country and culturally is so interesting and so varied, and there's so much to explore and so much to experience that you can't you can't discount any of that. All those things, like I love driving across the Southwest. I love visiting tiny little towns in Arizona and going like, oh, you know what? Let's just, my wife and I would do that. We'd just drive across Arizona, go visit my dad, drive through California, and let's just go check this out and check that out. And it's always interesting and always different, and it's unique. I haven't been everywhere, but I think I can safely say that there's no place else in the world that's like the Southwest United States. There's no place like Flagstaff, Arizona. You know, there's no place like Route 66 cutting across the country and like peppered with, I don't know what it's like anymore. You know, it's probably a total myth now. It's probably just all like, but even I was about to say it's probably all like the total tourist trap shit. But even the tourist trap shit in America is, I'm not saying it's good. It's not good. It's bullshit, but it's interesting. And it's
good showmanship.
Yeah, it's that showmanship. Totally. I mean, I think of like, yeah, the food. I mean, okay, here's one great thing, and this comes directly, obviously, from what resulted from importing a bunch of African slaves to America. Well, then over generations, they created this amazingly rich culture in like the southern states, not the Southwest, but the southern state. I mean, the Southwest as well, but specifically talking about Georgia and Florida and Mississippi and Alabama and like, you know, New Orleans. My God, New Orleans jazz. That is something completely in and of itself that would not have existed without that combination of horrible history and beautiful history and musical influence from here, musical Dixieland jazz, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So those things must be appreciated and preserved. Should this whole experiment fail?
No.
Yeah, it's
it's funny you say
really beautiful things.
It is. And, you know, and I think it's important to just sometimes point that out because there is a lot of stuff going on in the United States right now, like, you know, polarization, all the works. And in all of this, and obviously a lot of the people that ran onto the Capitol, 3-4 weeks ago now, they also say America is great and we need to preserve it. Obviously for all the wrong reasons, at least in my opinion, right?
Yeah, sure.
But that's why it's so important that to also remember for all the right reasons why there is so much good also happening in the United States. I think the idea of freedom has been exported the world over. I think it's an American concept, even though, and here I will just digress ever so slightly from me just talking positively about the United States today, they have violated that idea a lot of the times themselves when they went overseas. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, the idea of freedom in the sense of, state representation in that sense is very much an American idea. We look to the French Revolution a lot of the times, but the self-governance, that was actually first in the United States. Mm-hmm. So this is something we also have to keep in mind when we talk about this. So just bashing the United States is not helping anybody, right? But it's just about where we turn our focus. Yeah. I think that's important. Yeah. So in that sense, I want to maybe just move away a bit from the United States. How are you doing for time, by the way? Do you have to go back to the kids? Are you looking at the time?
We should wrap it up kind of less slowly than more slowly, kind of get
all right.
Because there'll be dinner and I still have to shop. The thing is, I still have to go shopping to buy food.
Oh my God!
For my family to have dinner.
That's a very important reason to keep this rather short. So I want to leave this because I'm so enjoying this conversation. So we got a little sidetracked as well, even though. No, we didn't get sidetracked. We just stayed on this one topic that is, I think, also very, very nice. But I would also like to just use the remaining time now to look at, first of all, your song, The River with You, which I think is an absolutely beautiful song.
Thank you.
And let me just read it off here because I wrote it down and, I'm getting to that age where I don't remember things so well anymore. What did I write? Just recently, his new single, The River, was published, a song with a hymnal depth that is juxtaposing a refreshingly positive melody with sinister lyrics. A great song for a world grappling with a pandemic, looking for hope. Do you see that? Or are you like, well, he just really made up a bunch of funny sounding words there?
No, the words are not at all funny sounding. I think it's very, very well said. And I'm actually very impressed by that assessment of the song. A little surprised because I didn't ever see it that way. Interestingly enough, the song is actually about 6 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just been released, but I wrote it about 6 years ago, started recording it about 4 years ago, and then kind of sat on it for quite a while. And then about 6 months ago, came back to maybe almost a year ago, came back to the recording and added some elements to it, including this hymnal thing that you're talking about, which was a group of us here in this room. Only me and 3 other people, Gabriel Gordon, Cecilia Beck, and Espen Bowder, who you might know Espen actually as a friend of Jim's.
Yes, I've known of him. I don't think I've met him.
Yeah.
Or maybe anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right. So the 3 of them came in and we sang the backing vocals for the song to give it this really kind of choral kind of feel. One thing I love about music is that it at its best, it should actually be able to be a message in the song, and the music should be able to apply to any situation, any time frame, any era, wherever it finds itself. And I love that you found something in that song that felt relevant to what our current reality is. I find that to be very, very complimentary and very, very satisfying as an artist for you to have found something in it that means something to you right now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's why I'm actually really surprised that it's 6 years old.
Yeah.
Because I really feel it fits into this. For me, it has this a little bit of confusion, like I said, this juxtaposition that we all feel a little bit, trying to stay optimistic and positive despite being in a pandemic and in a lockdown and stuff. So I think everybody should check it out. It's on Spotify, right? It's everywhere. You can also buy the album. I'm sure I will link to that.
Album is not out yet. I've released, I'm doing it.
It's just a single yet. Yeah, when is the album coming out?
That's a good question. I have no idea. No idea.
All right.
I'm not working.
All right. So
I am my own label now, and so I'm putting out singles, and then I'll put it all together and call it an album.
All right. I think that's a very great approach to publishing an album in general. That's how I would do it anyway. Not if that's any consolation. I don't know, but
no, it's good.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
Just collect some songs. Put them on a thing, and then put another thing on that, and then just call that an album. That's what I would do.
It's also arbitrary anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're doing, which I have done in the past, I have done albums that are specifically one song flows into the next, and there's soundscape connecting every song, and then it's an album. It's a piece of artwork, and it has to be played in its entirety for the fades to even make sense. Like the Footprints album you referred to is like that. The songs, like if you play one song from beginning to end, and then go to some other track on your playlist that's not from that album and not the next song, then the song just cuts off. And I made it like that on purpose. And I'm not doing that right now. I might do it again in the future, but right now I'm just creating standalone singles, releasing the singles, releasing. I want to release a single like every 6 weeks, and then have them all there and have an album, and then group them together in iTunes and Spotify and say, and this is the album. All these songs that I've released for the last year and a half, that's the album now. I'm not working with a label which has ups and downs. There's no pressure, which is generally good, but is also can be bad because no one's saying, hey, can you please give me another song so we can release it? You're just going like, hey, like 2 years later, I could, whatever, it doesn't matter. Super bad for productivity, but good for the soul, actually.
But once the album is out, also the single erikpenny.com, right? You can get it there then, I suppose. I'll also link to that.
Erik Penny,
also
erikpenny.de actually.
erikpenny.de. DE for Deutschland.
For Deutschland.
Yes, for all you Americans out there and other nationalities. Anyway.
The CD, I don't know if anyone will ever be able to get a physical CD from me. I don't know if I'll ever make it again. But all the typical outlets: Spotify, Deezer, Amazon, iTunes. It's all there.
Perfect. You can't miss it. Exactly.
You can try.
Just looking there. You can try, but not after this. Not after this today. Definitely not.
After this podcast blitz, everyone's going to be just
exactly
Amazon's doors to buy my new single.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely going to happen. By the way, I also saw your prophetic ability in the sense because you have the video to wait, what was it called again? The video to A Path We Share.
Yeah.
I watched that, and that's like 5 years old, and it feels like you have just Zoom recorded all your friends, which is a reality we're all facing. But you did that 5 years ago. How did you know? Are you part of the lizard people or something?
I actually, yes, I prophesized a world.
You work for Bill Gates, right? Is that what you do?
Crazy. I got my chip a long time ago. No, man. It's just a universal. It's a universal message and situation. Like there is a path we share because we're all on. Essentially, we are all on the same path. Now, the video, it was my concept, which I'm kind of proud to say that I had this idea. Like, hey, I barely
totally
in my own video, and I want to have it shot by somebody, and it was my friend. It's funny that I say my friend and I can't think of his name. God, how embarrassing! Because we barely knew each other. We just one of my very good friends is one of his very good friends, and it's killing me. Ed Paves is his name. Eduardo Paves. He's from.
I will just shorten this so that there's no lag.
Please cut that.
I'll add it.
Ed, I'm so sorry. Ed Paves from Santiago de Chile. So he came with me and met me several different days, and we went to this person's house, this person, different friends who
nice.
Who agreed to learn the text and pretend to be singing the song. And I'm super happy with the video. I was so glad with the way it turned out. I think some of the performances, it's easy to be happy with something that you conceptualized but didn't have to hardly act in at all. And so I can watch it and barely see myself, so I'm not cringing the whole time, and actually see other people singing my song, and like really cool, some kind of name people. I won't name drop or anything, but like, the German music scene, a couple of people who are like fairly well known who are like, sure, I'll do it because they're friends, So yeah. Anyway, you can cut that part out too. Doesn't matter. It was nice that some humans.
No, that one I won't cut out.
Yeah,
no, that one I won't. That's right. Good. That's good to go.
There's nothing wrong with being a little bit proud of your friends when they've made something really cool happen, and
nothing wrong with that at all.
No,
exactly.
and they still say yes when you ask a favor. That's nice.
That usually means that you haven't overstayed your welcome, with favors.
I'm pretty good about that, I have to say.
It's a good sign, yeah. It seems that way. I mean, you've been in Germany for 13 years, 12 years and 4 months, and you're still here, so you definitely know how to, stay well behaved and, appreciate.
I'm a very gracious guest. Let's say that for sure.
Absolutely, you've proven that. Many times today, many times over.
Well, my pleasure.
So I will have 2 more questions, right? And then I will let you go. The one thing is, because I said in the beginning that I really came up with the idea for the podcast with you today was because of the Instagram series you did, one painting a day.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so inspiring and so beautiful. First of all, your paintings are marvelous. Please go check them out, everybody, on your Instagram channel.
Thank you so much.
Instagram.com, I think, Erik Penny. I will link to that as well.
Thank you so much.
It is absolutely beautiful. And you said, I will do something valuable with my time during lockdown, and I will create a watercolor painting every single day. I think it's watercolor.
It is all watercolor. Is that correct? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're beautiful. They're faces. They're beautiful faces, portraits, and they speak to the absolute beauty that human beings are in all their multitude and diversity.
Yeah.
And that why, because this podcast is a little bit also about crises and opportunities. And I thought you have taken this crisis and turned it into an opportunity by creating something original and beautiful.
That is very nice to hear.
Yes, it comes from the heart, and I would like to know when did you come up with it? Do you remember when you had this idea?
It's interesting that you asked that. I wish I could very specifically remember like the point where I said, oh, or there like a build up to that point where I would say, oh, I'm gonna now do this because I've been thinking. It just kind of happened. Like I as you mentioned in my intro, I studied art, studied painting, and painted for quite a while when I moved to Los Angeles, after college, and then, into Los Angeles, I painted quite a bit, and then just didn't for a long time. I was always, sketching and always doing a little bit of that, but never for many years, actually, I didn't actually even complete a painting, even, and I say even, not to cheapen it or anything, but even a watercolor painting, because essentially a small format watercolor sketch or completed painting is not as labor intensive, obviously, as like, a full, 2 meter.
A full Michelangelo.
exactly. That's the Sistine Chapel is a little more involved.
Yeah, a little.
Slightly. But then I just kind of, during lockdown and everything, and during all this, it wasn't during the full lockdown or anything, but it was all during this Corona thing, I was finding myself, as many people did, I think, a lot more on social media. I have to say a lot less on Facebook and a lot more on Instagram. And I found Instagram a lot more fulfilling in just seeing other people's artwork being presented. And I think that's what happened, is I became aware of this challenge that a couple of different continued art education portals sort of offer. It's the challenge being like 30 faces in 30 days. And I thought, gosh, man, to be able to do like paint a portrait every day for 30 days, boy, that's challenging. But I thought, I really want to do this, and I just started doing it, and it just rolled and became. That's the thing about social media. If you do something, we're all Pavlov's dogs. You do something that gives immediate gratification, and you get a lot of likes, and you get a lot of people saying, "Oh man, this is really cool. Please keep going." You go like, "Okay, I'll keep going," and so you do. You can't say that we don't. Very, very few people create art in a bubble. Most of us create art in our larger bubble, where we're actually waiting for other people to say, "Oh, that's great, that's awesome," because we all thrive on egotistical ego stimulation. But for me, it was just really, really satisfying to do that and have people, it's nice to have people enjoying it. But for me, it was really like, in this lockdown thing, this dedication to like 1 to 3 hours every day. Some of them went pretty quick, within an hour. Some took 3, sometimes 4 hours. But just to be able to say, this is my time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to complete this thing. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. It just has to be finished. And I'm going to do this. And it was an exercise, and a really great exercise for my soul, really, which is really what art is supposed to be.
Yes.
For me, I can't speak for anyone else. I think a lot of people would agree with me.
I do.
Yeah.
Erik.
I think most people would. Some assholes who wouldn't, probably.
Yeah, sure. Like, shit heels.
Shit heels, probably.
Yeah. Shit heel stooges. Anyway.
Exactly. So it was wonderful. And I'm glad you bring it up and you recognize it. And it was, and it's actually brought me back in touch with a side of my artistic expression that I had actually really long neglected. And it's also nice to see that I've actually gotten, I've sold a few paintings, and I've had new paintings commissioned specifically because people have seen some of the work I've done. And so that's always nice as well, obviously.
You know what you said just now, I think is very, very important as well. You said they don't have to be perfect. I'm learning more and more that perfection is, because for a long time I felt that things have to be perfect, and they don't. I realize it more and more. It's more important than being perfect is that you do things.
Yeah.
And perfection is something that holds you back a lot of the times. If I were after perfection, I would have not published one single podcast episode.
Yeah.
Because hearing myself talk, just after the first minute, I could go like, rather just no.
Yep.
No, rather not.
Yep.
But then you realize, hey, fuck it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And people like it or they don't.
Yeah.
But at least you're doing something that you enjoy and you think is in some way hopefully valuable and meaningful to
Absolutely.
at least yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's actually all that matters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the final question now before you put food on the table or put food on your family, like George W. Bush said. I think he said.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Good one. We're going way back for that one. Holy shit. Well,
you brought him up earlier, so I had to kind of dig deeper.
Yep.
So I want to know, after you having provide an example already how you can deal with this optimistically and positively with painting and doing something with the time that is given you that you would have otherwise used in a different way. How do you think where do you see opportunities in this particular crisis, or maybe also crises in general?
What I see, and I'll only speak for myself because I don't want to try to speak for anyone else or for society at large.
That's the best position to speak from.
Yeah, I think
always anyway.
For me, this has opened doors that I would not have actually maybe made the time for or had the time to push against, and inspired me to try to find some things that make me very, very happy, to try to maintain my balance and sanity in a very challenging time. And that means songwriting to me. That means painting to me. And the way things tend to lead one to the other with creative things is fascinating. Like, for instance, I did a painting of an old friend of mine from LA, a musician, a singer-songwriter, and he loved it and said, "Man, that's amazing. That's really great." And then he asked me, "Oh God, it would be such an honor if you would paint our daughter." So I painted his daughter, and he loved that. And his wife is an old friend of mine as well. And then that led to him asking me a couple of weeks later, "Hey, what are you doing with music these days? I see you're releasing things, but hey, I'm doing a lot of music supervision for TV shows and movies and commercials here in the States, and I could totally always use writers. And now, as of like a week ago, I'm now writing with him some things to see how it goes and hopefully leads to something." So the chances, the opportunities that exist in a crisis like this are things that, everything is so different. So there's all these places that we maybe wouldn't necessarily otherwise go, places that we're going, places that we have to go. And then I could apply that to like all these giant things about travel and home office and airlines and all this and all that. And anyone can answer that for themselves. Things are changing in some ways. Lots of things are going to go back to quote unquote normal, but lots of things will be irrevocably and forever changed. And I feel like for myself, there's a lot of paths that I've gone down that are now leading to more paths and more paths and more paths that will never go back to normal. I feel like I'm on several new paths, and I'm very thankful and grateful and happy to be on them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I think, yes, that's, it changes, your life. I think in the sense also what you said, I think focusing your energy and your attention more on what it means for you to have quality time. Yeah. I think this is, and sometimes it's good to think about what it actually is for yourself. Yeah. How do I like to spend my time, and what is quality time for
Absolutely.
me? Fantastic, Erik. We have come to the end of a fantastic, nice, long conversation.
It's wonderful.
Now you have to put food on your family, like we just said. All over them. Yeah. There's one sentence I would just like to, put out into the ether before we put this to rest for the time being, because you can be back anytime. We established that already, right? Exactly.
To. Yeah.
It was the one sentence in Hamilton that I saw yesterday, in case I haven't mentioned that. Have I mentioned that?
What's that now?
Yeah. It's just, there's a scene in Hamilton, it's about right in the beginning, and it's this line, and he says, "I haven't done a million things, but just you wait."
Oh, yeah.
But just you wait. And this is a sentence maybe that we can apply to the United States. The United States will still do a million things, and I think the United States also have the power to do a lot of these million things in a very nice and good way. So maybe that's just to put it out there.
I hope you're right.
We all hope
Yeah.
that this is a sentence that will be guiding the direction a little bit.
I love it. I'll take it.
Thank you so much, Erik. It was such a great pleasure having you in the van today.
Bastian, your van it's a little musty smelling right now, but we'll air it out and it'll be fine.
Totally. I'll just take it for a 60 kilometers per hour spin and it'll just be as good as new. That's the wonderful thing of having a mobile home.
Exactly. Exactly. So
have a wonderful night.
You as well. Thank you so much, Bastian. It's wonderful.
And with this, we've come to the end of this week's trip in the Yellow Van. All information about Erik and his work you can find in the show notes, along with all relevant links to today's conversation, as usual. Thank you very much for coming along on the Yellow Van today. We hope you enjoyed your time on board with us. If you feel I missed some essential questions or follow-ups, and I can already think of so many just off the top of my head, send them to us and we will pass them on to have them answered for you. If you have your own inspiring story to tell, or you know somebody who does, get in touch with us on yellowvanstories.com, where you can also leave us your general feedback or ideas for improvements. The hashtags for the show, learning on the job, and stronger together are no coincidence. If you want to support Fonzie with a bit of petrol money, you can do so on patreon.com/yellowvanstories, or you can leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. This podcast is a Mind the Bump production. We hope to welcome you back next week for a brand new episode. We'll be keeping you a seat and we'll be cooling that imaginary drink of your choice. Please note, a selection of teas and instant coffee is available as well. Some of you might just be starting your day. Until then, stay healthy, keep loving, and always remember, we're all in this together. Now, take it away, Jim.
Message is clear. Keep living in the face of fear. Keep shouting that you are here. Talking about those ideas. Loving whether far or near. Loving in the face of fear. Shouting that you are here. Loving in the face of fear. Of your life, are you standing for your right?